Hi guys, just want to say thank you for joining my channel, watching me, and putting up with me. Hopefully, I'll be able to help some people, maybe with perspective or outlook, who knows. Anyway, I wanted to touch upon some basics first. So I thought if I make sure that we all understand the very basics, because there's lots of stuff out there that's very confusing for everybody. I know it's confusing as I was sifting through it all, and you come to a stage sometimes where you just realise that it's just minutiae. None of it matters. There's very little that really matters in the grand scheme of things. So I'm going to try and stick to the basics and what really matter. And obviously we're going to have to touch upon other things. So we're going to have to go down a few rabbit holes, because obviously conspiracy theories are quite important. Because what is a conspiracy theory? Well, there is a narrative for that, isn't there? But it's from the people who provide the official narrative. So we won't follow their narrative as to what conspiracy theory is. I'll create my own as to what I believe a conspiracy theory is. So, a conspiracy theory is anything that doesn't fit the narrative of the government or the system and what they officially want everybody to know. Anything outside of that, which often consists of truth, is a conspiracy theory, and that is to make people think that, oh yeah, it's a conspiracy theorist, must be mad, must be living lizard people and all of these things that are out there. Well, there are lots of different belief systems that are out there. Well, what is a belief system? A belief system is a system that's already been put in place, but by another man or another person. In the case of every single belief system that we have on this planet at this present moment in time, was put there by somebody else. Every book that we look to that has knowledge in it has been put there, and we don't know whether it's been put there on purpose to mislead us or whether it's been put there for truth. All we can do is use our perception, and some people don't have quite the perception that they should or could have because they're so stuck in their physical body. But this is why I wanted to get down to the very basics first. So, we all understand these days what atoms are. Atoms, molecules, protons, quarks, and obviously the 99.9% space. So that means even what we perceive to be solid is hollow, and we only perceive light, and we only get 4% of that light spectrum that is filtered into our brain that we can make sense of, which means that there's 96% of what we can't see in existence, because we only see very limited. So when it comes to our physical senses, we have to take them for what they are. They're an input method designed so that our energy bodies can experience things through physical reality, emotions, touch, all of these kinds of things that your spirit, true self, can't experience. So anyway, we haven't got that far yet. So obviously everything's made out of molecules. So what do we understand about molecules? Well, they are vibrational energy. They're vibrating all over the place. They blink in and out of time and space. And we know that one molecule can exist in two different places at exactly the same time, because all of this has been tested and proven. There is much that we don't know about molecules, but we do know that they're, as I said, 99.999% empty space, but within that space is an energy vortex, so they are full of energy. So basically molecules are energy, but they're conscious. Now, I know a lot of people are going to go, how can a molecule be conscious? Well, how can we be conscious? How can water be conscious? Water is conscious. That also has been proven. And every living thing is conscious. If you looked at Dr. P. Lipman's book, he will even tell you that every cell is conscious and reacts to its environment. And that is true. Now, if we take ourselves out of our, well, so atoms are vibrational energy. We're made from atoms, as is everything. So if we're made from atoms, what you physically see is the shape that compounds all of the atoms. But atoms don't touch each other, and they are surrounded by vibrational energy. So they're surrounded by energy. So what you see physically here, what you don't see is the energy body that surrounds it, which we often refer to as the aura. So we, as a physical body, fit inside our energy body, because our energy body is our true self. This is who we genuinely are. This is what is born into a little baby when we're birthed, and this is what comes from the universe as our essence of who we are. Now, I can't explain the very beginnings of everything, as I'm sure nobody can, because none of us have the answers for everything, and I'm sure none of us would be able to cope with it. Only when we join back together is the complete energy. Well, never complete, because it's always experiencing things. So, but we do come back together and regain our lost knowledge. But for those of you who obviously are joining me on this journey, I don't want to sort of lose you too much. So we're going to, now we've ascertained that we are actually an energy body, and this physical body is just a tool. It's a tool that we inhabit. It's our energy that drives it. So we know that this body is made of organic material. Break it down, you've got sulfur and carbon and all sorts of different chemicals that all come from this earth. This is another misconcept that people seem to have. There's lots of misconcepts, but it's misdirection that's fed to us. It's fed to us on purpose to keep us separate and confused and never knowing the truth. But the misconception that we have is, I've heard lots of people say that our brains are so powerful because if you look around the world, everything around the world existed in someone's mind first, which is true. This is to stress the importance and the power of manifestation. But the point that we lose there is we come from the earth, so the earth created us, and therefore we had nothing. And everything that we see created before us was gifted to us from the earth. So this is the point that we need to remember and focus on, because it's for a very good reason. So it's not man, we're not all powerful, we didn't create everything. We have been created. Yes, we are also creators, because we are of the creation. And we have consciousness, which allows us to tap into what we are, to be able to create. Now, another thing about manifestations, anybody who tells you to manifest anything for your own desires is misleading you, because that keeps you separatist, because you're sitting imagining that you're in this beautiful house and you've got this lovely lifestyle, you've got these dogs running through the fields, and it's all me, 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 me. That's what it boils down to, because it's what do you want? Manifest wealth into your life, abundance. But it's misleading. So it's a little bit of truth with a little bit of lie, which then, stops people from reaching their true potential. People seem to have this almost fairy tale fantasy about what is enlightenment, Now, to be able to talk about something, you should be able to know about, wouldn't you? Well, I'm not going to say that I'm in any way enlightened in any form or other. I'm just a normal man who has perception, who has life experience, who's been through things and come out the other side. And his perception changed, and he saw more clearly in lots of areas than he had ever had before. I like to think that people make too much of it, and they make it seem unattainable, and it's the human condition as such, where we like to make things more complicated than they actually really are. Several reasons. One, it makes us look good and seem really intelligent and more advanced than everybody else, and feeding into the ego. Another is, then we can turn it into a business. If it's something difficult that I can teach you, then obviously I can charge you money for it. And you see all of these woke people up, buy the merch, do this, it's all tying back into the system. So if you're truly woken up, then you know that you need to step out of the system, not continue to play a role in the system. And to step out of the system means you stop supporting it fully, and you obviously then start teaching people how to wake up and how to stand against the system, but you teach them for free. You don't go around charging people. I've let my whole life collapse and I have nothing financially and I really don't give a shit. I probably could have never been happy. In fact, no probably about it. I'm at one of the happiest times in my entire existence in life. I'm more at peace with myself than I've ever been. You know, I'm so contented I could die today and I wouldn't bat an eyelid. I'd be quite content because I'm getting my message out there. I'm walking the path that I've been put here to walk. And it's not about financial gain, it's about results. You know, if I can help one, two, three, four, five, how if I can help the whole world, trust me, I would be blessed. That would be my existence fulfilled. But if I can help just a handful of people, and maybe they're going to help a handful of other people, you know, it's a dent. You know, you can't ask for more than that. But anyway, so when we're born, you know, we're taught that we're born into sin, and that couldn't be any further from the truth either. There is nothing so pure as a newborn baby, pure body, pure soul. Where could be the sin? You know, so inherently the people in control want us to believe that we are bad and that we have that within us. And life, you know, so I'm stripping away everything that everybody knows and only sticking to what we can see as truth and understand as basic reality. So I was always into nature when I was a young lad. I was always watching animals and was fascinated by them. You know, loved them. And unfortunately, we don't have the amount of animals these days that we ever did, because this is one of our other talents that we seem to have found on the wrong path. But I always used to watch them and think, you know, how they were so symbiotic, and you know, one animal ate an animal that fed another animal, and you know, all of these survived because of that, and you know, everything just, it was fair. It was, you know, not brutal in the sense of you know, how we are brutal. We have no compassion, but it was brutal as in stark, brutal reality of life and death and the balance of things, and you know, how things work, and it led me to a great love of the planet and the symbiotic relationship that that has with everything. You know, really, the only creature that I ever encountered in my whole existence that wasn't symbiotic with, you know, its relationship on this planet really was us. And, you know, it got me to thinking quite a lot, you know, looking at animals and looking at how, you know, many of us would become obese, and then the animals we look after would suffer with that as well. So, but it doesn't happen in real world, not beyond our, you know, our control. Um, and then I started, you know, I was never a good boy at school. Um, I started finding an interest in the rest of the world. You know, how does the world operate? You know, how do trees suck in carbon? What do they do with it? Put it into the earth, etc., etc. You know, it's just an amazing relationship. And then I realized, well, so if we're born from the earth, you know, and obviously the earth created us and we are part of earth's creation. And, you know, you see all these animals, and obviously they have their fight and flight, and you know, they're in survival mode, which they are because they're animal and prey. You know, some get eaten, and when they're born, they have to stand up very quickly. You know, they don't get however many years it takes us to start crawling. I mean, walking. You know, they've got to be up quick, fast, and in a hurry within minutes. You know, otherwise they could get eaten. Well, it started me thinking, well, nature gives you exactly what you need. So it's put these prey animals in a position where they're able to get up and run. And newborn babies, once they get their balance, they can run. Not as fast as an adult, but fast enough, which is amazing. But we're born, and what do we need? So that animal's been given what it needs from birth. What are we given? Well, what does nature put us in a position of? Well, we're in a position where we're completely helpless. So that means that we need love and we need nurture. So it gives us what we are. So a foal is born into, gotta get up on my feet. It has that fear, it has that fight or flight because it's prey. So obviously it's been given the tools from birth, what it needs. The tools that we're given, well, we're helpless, aren't we? So our parents have to, do everything for us, which is nurturing us. And because we are in such a family state of, need, therefore it engenders love, doesn't it? So this is nature's way of giving us the tools that we need for our life. So we need to be nurtured and cared for and loved, which means that we are the beings on this planet that are supposed to be nurturing, caring for, and loving all of the others. But instead we've been desensitized through our existence into it comes down to slavery. We've been turned into slaves. And what's the best slaves you can have are the slaves who believe they're free. But how can you be free when every decision and every thought that you have is something that is based on a platform that has been pre-programmed into you from birth? Where's the freedom? And then when you're tied into a society, so let's talk about money, which is, it's your own invisible bonds that you keep on yourself because your wants and your needs and your desires drive what you are prepared to pay for things. And your need and desire to be better than everybody else, or to be seen to be better, to be a bit shinier, to have a nicer car, a bigger house, live in a certain area, these are the shackles of your bonds that you're not even aware of. And you spend your life feeding into the system. And there's very few people who control and own, like financially, everything. Very few. So they are the slave masters at the very top, and then they have their shares in all of the corporations and the filters. And we all know how it works in your banks and pharmaceuticals. I don't need to go into it all. I don't want to bore people or get you all confused with the minutiae. But the end result is everybody on the planet, when you're in the system, you work for them. And that's it. And when people realize and see the disparity, it's very, very easy to break free. So what's holding us there? Well, the fact that we think, well, this is the way society is, isn't it? This is the way, it's always been, it's the way it's supposed to be, isn't it? We know there have been many other forms of society, and there have been many better ways that have been buried, hidden. There's lots of stuff out there that we can utilize. We're in such a powerful time now, but we are also so vulnerable, and we're being taken advantage of, and we're being herded towards the end goal. And trust me, people are going willingly because they're being coerced with fear. And, responsibility is in false responsibility where they have to feel responsible for everybody else. So they thought, I'm going to have these jabs even though I don't know what's in them because I'm doing it for everybody else. I had a guy who's in France who I know who got jabbed. I told him not to. And then he's trying to tell me today, I had no choice. No, you had the choice. You had the choice. You had your reasons. You went made your decision. You had the choice. Oh no, but my hands were tied. No, they weren't tied. You weren't physically tied down and tied. We all have a choice. I had a choice. I had a choice to stand against the system or to go with it. I'm choosing to stand against the system because I know why I'm here. I am here to wake people up, to rally them, to get them into their own seat of power. No cost, no hidden charges. Just follow me and stand with me because it's our freedom that we're moving for. Anyway, I'll get deeper into that because I haven't told you how the full enslavement thing yet anyway. But yes, money is the shackles, and the whole system is set up for it, and obviously what don't you want from a slave? Well, you don't want slaves to rebel, you don't want them to think for themselves, so what can we do? And you don't want them strong, yeah? You don't want them in their seat of power, it's 100% sure, because if they get in that seat of power, look at how many people are on this planet now. 7.8 billion, something like that. I think the numbers are quite close to that. And how many people are in the seats of power who control this world? Probably about 3,000, say 4,000 at a push. Well, that's not 1%, is it? That's about 0.0000035%. So the numbers are even smaller now that our numbers are getting bigger. Now, the more slaves you have, the more power you have. But the problem with slaves is they just keep thinking for themselves and wanting things, don't they? You know? And they want freedom. Fucking slaves, man. Can't keep them in line, can you? What should we do? Tell you what we'll do. We'll give them freedom. Okay, right. Well, we can't just let them be free and do whatever they want. But anyway, it's a good job. Slaves are ignorant. They haven't got the education that we've got. We know how the world runs. We know everything. We'll put ourselves in power. We'll own everything that they can ever do. So before he can even get a job, I already own the business that he's trying to get a job at. That's no problem. No matter how high he works, one day I'll sell him the business, but I'll own the bank anyway. And I will always control everything that he has. And anybody who rises big and becomes powerful, well, we will either incorporate them into us because they will show the talents that we need, or we will destroy them and bury them. Anybody who has information that is against our narrative, so we will set schools up so that we can educate our free people. So we set the schools up and we do the education. And we teach them to repeat everything that's taught back to them, sit in their little rows, all conforming and well behaved. They have to be well behaved because we'll use corporal punishment if they're not. Anyway, moving on. Things have softened, but the education system still stayed the same, still spouting the same old narrative of useless shit. Whereas what we should be learning. So if we had a society where we had a government that cared about people and wanted people to be the best that they could be, like they're always telling us we should be when we're in competition with each other, then surely they would tell us about this hugely powerful machine and computer that we operate, because this is what we're in control of. So when they say that when you look around you, nothing that you see wasn't built from within this mind, well, they're true in that respect, other than we get it all from the earth. No, we have created some amazing things and we have amazing power and ability, but we don't understand ourselves. So many people end up broken, you know, depressed, all sorts of psychological problems, thinking that they're a different sex or, whatever. All of these things are all coming from the fact that our society is screwed up. It's insane. And I use the word insane for society often because it's what I see. I see repetitive behaviours that the people want to elicit change from, but change is never going to come from the same behaviour. And they continue doing it, and they continue doing it, and they complain about it, and they gripe about it, but nothing ever changes. And that in itself is a definition of insanity. It's not my definition, it is the definition. So, what do we do? Well, we don't give in anyway. So, let's move on. You don't want your slaves thinking for themselves, so you educate them. You give them jobs and you put them out there in the world. And, they're the freest slaves that they've ever been. And so they're happy. And they settle into that. They don't realise they're slaves. They don't realise that you're tying them into a system. So you set up banks and, obviously we know the story of the World Bank creating wars to get into different countries and all of the destruction. Then they lend them the money to rebuild and put their people in power and blah, blah, blah. As is the spread of cancer. We know how insidiously they control things. We don't have to go into all of the plots and machinations behind it. We just need to understand the basics of it and what the end goal is. So what is the end goal? Well, the end goal is to have the perfect slave